So recently, I got through watching the new Mary movie on Netflix. Now I'm a little bit late to the party as far as reviews and all that's going, but I saw it recently, and I was talking to somebody about it, and they were because they just came into Christianity, and I was like, "Oh, did you hear about the controversy surrounding it? Yada yada yada." And they're like, "No, I'm really not too sure. I just, I don't. I just started reading the Bible, whatever." And I mean, I really don't care much for the controversy surrounding it because I already know what to expect from a secular movie based on Christianity. But it got me thinking, like, damn, a lot of secular media that makes movies or TV shows based on Christianity, a lot of the times most of the times they always fall short and they always fuck up like the message, right? Because the average layman doesn't understand the theology behind whatever's being presented, and they don't understand the theology, and they're not going to go out of their way to go research whatever's going on, right? They read these hit pieces where they say like, the Southern Baptist Church of America is angry about the new Jesus movie or the new Mary movie or the new King David movie, whatever movie it is. And the problem is that these secular authorities or secular media, right, or Hollywood or whatever, they don't really have the theology down. So the issue that I'm seeing is that they're not consulting professionals or any kind of professionals. And or if they do consult professionals, they're consulting professionals that are theologically liberal, right? And that got me also thinking, well, then the Christians need to start stepping up their game too. I mean, as far as Christianity is concerned, I mean, the only two good, in my opinion, the only two good Christian movies we have from Christian media is Cabrini and then The Passion of the Christ, right? Shout out to Mel Gibson, right? So I don't think everything that comes out of secular media is bad when they're making movies or shows about Christianity. I could think about 5 that are pretty good. So the first one I would say has to be The Last Crusade, right? The third installment of the Indiana Jones series. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, honestly, there's not so much to it where you can say like there's some deeper meaning to it. It's a very straightforward story, but you can almost say that the final act of the movie is an allegory for basically circumcision of the heart, when you really think about it. Because when Indiana had to go get the Holy Grail, you had to be of pure heart or whatever to choose the right one, right? So obviously he knew, because his father probably taught him that Jesus was just a simple man, a carpenter. He got the regular cup, right? The brass cup. And then fucking Elsa and this fucking traitor to the United States of America, the Benedict Arnold, she picks it for him, and he drinks it, and then he fucking dies. This is what happens when you let your woman choose for you, when you let her make the decisions for you. Chapter 2 of Genesis. If you know, you know, right? With chapter 2 and 3. Another piece of media would be Nacho Libre, right? Funny enough, it's a comedy movie, but it's a comedy movie that I think accurately represents what it means to be a Catholic or a Christian, right? You have Father Sergio Gutierrez Benitez, that was his name, right? He basically, because I guess they want to cut funds for the orphanage or whatever, so he gets into wrestling to save the orphanage. And he's a celibate priest, it's not like he's out there doing his dirt or whatever. Like he's enjoying all this clout and money and female attention. Like, no, he's literally wrestling, abusing his body basically for these kids to have a good life in the orphanage, right?
Shout out Jack Black.
Shout out to Jack Black, right?
Favorite Jew.
He's one of them.
You know he was Jewish?
Fucked up. So the next piece of media that I want to bring up is Silence, right? Silence is a Martin Scorsese film. Martin Scorsese will be brought up in the rest of the video, right? But yeah, so Silence basically, make a long story short, it's just about these two Jesuit priests that go to Japan to go evangelize, and there's a lot of martyrdom. There's a lot of like deeper meaning to like the characters and stuff like that. I mean, I could talk about Silence for hours, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. The Bible series from fucking History Channel was excellent. I mean, they had Hans Zimmer, excellent acting, excellent cinematography, the set pieces, everything was beautiful about it. I mean, the only thing that I could say was I didn't like the actor of Mary Magdalene, right? Funny enough, right? Because I will be bringing up that actor again pretty soon, right? It all comes together. It's like poetry. It rhymes, in the words of our friend George Lucas, right? And then,
again, it's like poetry. So if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully, it'll work.
the last piece of media that I want to glaze has to be the Daredevil series, right? So in the Daredevil series, especially with Disney Marvel, it's like they always want to portray old Western traditions like as something that's bad, and they never portray Catholicism or Christianity as a whole as something bad. I mean, Matthew literally gets his moral compass from Catholicism, right? That's where he gets his moral compass from, right? I mean, you can argue that's what every superhero does, but he's explicit in his faith, right? Then you got Father Lantom in the story where he literally throws himself to save Karen, right? Because he knows how much Matthew loves Karen, right? Yeah, I mean, then almost forgot to mention. Then you got the Daredevil Punisher scene where they're basically arguing about who's right and who's wrong, and I've heard on the internet that of people arguing that that's basically like God or Abraham when he's arguing with God about if there's 10 good people in Sodom and Gomorrah, should we not let them live? And God's like, yeah. And then it turns out that there's nobody that's good in Sodom and Gomorrah, and they all die. So another thing with the Punisher is that the Punisher versus Daredevil, I think it's a good like argument for like pro-life versus pro-choice, right? Because, you know, a lot of the abortionists today, you know, they want to argue like, oh, does it really matter? The mother's poor, and they're in the hood, yada, yada, yada. And a lot of the pro-lifers like, no, it's still a life. That kid deserves to live. That's basically what Punisher and Daredevil are arguing, right? You know, Punisher's like, my way works, it sucks, but it works. Your way doesn't work, but people get to live, right? That's basically what he's telling them. And then, you know, Daredevil's like, oh, but don't they deserve a second chance? And Punisher's like, no, they fucking don't, right? So, overall, I think those have to be the best secular creations about Christianity that are good, right? There's obviously a lot of fucking bad ones, right? So, before we get into the bad ones, I want to get into some honorable mentions, like ones that I didn't think were too bad, but they could have done better. The first one has to be The Saints, right? Presented by Martin Scorsese, right? So the actual how do you say, set pieces or whatever, like when they were doing like the scenes for what's her name, Joan of Arc, I believe St. George, Maximilian Kolbe, John the Baptist, like they were all good. I think the commentary was what I found, like, I don't want to say abhorrent, but kind of annoying, because they were obviously trying to, like, you know, push a certain message, right? Yeah, other than the commentary wasn't bad. The only issue that I had with the actual scenes of the saints was when John the Baptist, when he baptized, after he baptizes Christ, there's supposed to be like a dove, right? There's supposed to be a dove that comes out, and then he does a speech, you know, calling out all the Pharisees and shit. But instead of that, after he baptizes Christ, there's this like little fine ass Middle Eastern girl that he baptizes, and he baptizes her, and then as soon as she gets baptized, you just see a gyat. You just see the gyat, right? And then to make matters worse, he looks at it too. He's looking at the gyat after he baptizes her.
baptize you with water?
And there's no dove. There's no dove. So I guess that's my issue with that one. Another one after that would be the Two Popes. That one does have Anthony Hopkins. I will be mentioning him again. It has Anthony Hopkins, the Hannibal Lecter. It wasn't really like bad or anything. I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't. If I never see the movie again, I could live, right? That's not an issue for me. And the other two that I haven't seen is Case for Christ and God Is Not Dead. I don't know if those movies are made by Christian studios or whatever. I'm gonna assume that they're probably not. They might be, so you guys can correct me.
What studio do you think it is?
Could be a secular studio.
Oh, okay.
Could be a secular studio. But yeah, I'm not sure. If they're made by secular studios or not. So you guys could correct me if they are. So now we got to get into the bad shit, right? So let's start with the cream of the crop, right? Kingdom of Heaven, right? We see Kingdom of Heaven in all those Sigma Catholic TikTok edits, and they're pretty cool. But it's only cool because you don't know the context of what's going on behind the scenes, right? So literally, this whole fucking movie was made by Ridley Scott, who I will be mentioning again, right? Everything comes together, it rhymes like poetry. Ridley Scott makes this movie, right? He tries to make all these fucking Christians look like crazy fucking barbarians that are just bloodthirsty. They're just out to kill fucking Palestinians, right? Or whatever the fuck, whoever's inhabiting that area of the world, right? And they literally portray the Christians as just barbarians, right? Which is obviously historically wrong. If you know anything about history, you know that the Byzantine emperor asked the Pope to help him out because all these Muslims were conquering the Near East, right? And they were being brutalized by the fucking Muslims, so they needed some help. And the Pope was like, he told all these, fucking Guineas and all these fucking Mix and Anglos, hey, we got to save our brothers in the East. They're getting the shit knocked out of them, right? So that's what they did. That's the true history, right? To put in simple terms, but the whole movie was basically just made to look Christians look like barbarians, right? And obviously someone like me has a problem with that. So the next movie that's coming up has to be The Pope's Exorcist, right? So The Pope's Exorcist wasn't that offensive, but the big aha moment in that movie was when they do the exorcism on the little boy and they end up finding out the demon, right? The demon is Asmodeus, who is the demon of sex, and he is mentioned in the book of Tobit. So the big aha moment after they find out who the demon is the Spanish Inquisition, right? The biggest fucking lie that we've ever been taught in school. Like I said, I mean, the Pope's Exorcist is not that offensive. It's just, I think the movie was very subversive in that it was trying to show like this fucking Spanish Inquisitions will cause people to become fucking demons. Like, that makes any fucking sense. Or demon possessed. After that, I mean, shit, we got The Last Temptation. Must I say more? I mean, you have Jesus coming off the cross and making love to Mary, right? Mary Magdalene. Another Martin Scorsese flick. Padre Pio, which was the biggest fucking flop I've ever seen. I mean, when you're watching Padre Pio, or not when you watched it, but before they came out with the film, because they dragged ass to come out with the film, they tried portraying the film, like in the trailers and all that, like this, like it's about the life of Padre Pio and how much of a devout Catholic he was. I mean, they did show some of that in the movie, but this whole movie was just fucking anti-fascist communist propaganda, which was directed by a fucking porn director, right? And now I try giving it a chance because I'm like, you know what? Listen, I don't care what all the hoopla and the internet is. I want to see it and form my own opinion. And guess what? The internet really was fucking right this time. Yeah, the next movie that I got on my list has to be Mary Magdalene, the one with Joaquin Phoenix. Never seen it, but I heard that it was like feminist propaganda, which I believe because Joaquin Phoenix is in it. And then in more recent time, we have Conclave, right? I went to go see Conclave with my friend Kachi. It was a random afternoon. I decided, hey, fuck it, let's go see this movie. We watched it. Movie wasn't that bad. As far as acting is concerned, because that's another thing I forgot to mention. All these movies they're fucking, I mean, as far as production goes, they're fucking beautiful. The acting is great. The score is great. The cinema, everything other than the theology in those movies is great. Yeah. Conclave was a beautiful movie. You see the Vatican, you see the conclave itself, the priestly vestments, the raw as hell. I mean, they even had Eastern priests of the Byzantine or the Chaldean or Coptic tradition. They did their fucking homework, and that's what makes me think that they purposefully, or the person that wrote this novel purposefully, was trying to subvert Christians, because at the end of the movie they have a Mexican tranny end up becoming the Pope, and they try to make the conservatives look like crazy and archaic, and the liberals are the ones that have the answers, right? Yeah, like I said, the movie, I mean, cinematic or the movie itself looked great. The music was great. The acting was great. But the message that was being portrayed towards the end was obviously horrid, right? And then the other two movies that I had was, or three actually. Well, the first two has to be Exodus by Ridley Scott. I haven't seen yet, but I heard that one was bullshit. I heard it was, well, not bullshit, but it was bullshit in the sense that he didn't properly portray the book of Exodus. I haven't seen it. Noah with Russell Crowe. I also heard that one wasn't that great either as far as the theology is concerned. And going back to what I mentioned in the beginning, Mary, which was on Netflix featuring Anthony Hopkins, that movie, I don't think it was bad. I don't think it was that bad. But the only issues I had with it was Mary doubting God. Because if you have read the Gospels, you know Mary was pretty much like, she was set. She was like, yeah, I believe 100% what I was put on this earth to do. Labor pains, according to Catholic theology and Christian theology, Mary didn't have to go through labor pains because she was pure, and that's the reason why Eve had to go through labor pains, and every other woman, because they are of sin and she was born without sin. So obviously the ark of God, the new ark, would have a miraculous birth, and she didn't have that. But in conclusion, this is what needs to happen. The Christian studios like Angel Studios or whoever Mel Gibson fucking works with. Who does he work with? Does he have his own thing? His wife?
His wife.
Well, no, but does he have his own thing or no? Well, Angel Studios and Mel Gibson need to start stepping it up a little bit and start upping their production, you know, because that's what's going to draw the people in. They need to bring in better actors. They need to bring in better scores, all that cinematography. I mean, the cinematography in Passion of the Christ was great. Even in the other one, Cabrini, those were both good. But the music and the acting could have been better. Yeah, so they need to step it up, or the secular studios need to start consulting with more professionals, more people that are theologically conservative, and will bring how do I say, that will inspire people to come back to the faith. But not only just that, but do it in a way that accurately represents our theology, right? Because most people, like I said, they're not going to go out of their way to go figure out why Jesus making love to Mary Magdalene is wrong and should never be portrayed in a fucking piece of media ever again. Yeah, most people aren't going to do that research, but the secular Hollywood doesn't really care, because guess what? They're there to sell spectacle, not to sell a movie that will inspire the spirit, right? Like the Ten Commandments, like the greatest story ever told, like Jesus of Nazareth, Passion of the Christ. We don't get those movies anymore, right? But that's where I'm going to lead a little bit into conspiracy mode, right? So first, this is my practical explanation for why these movies are coming out the way they are. The practical is this, is that the creators behind these stories actually have like a genuine message that they're trying to push, which is that these people in the Bible are a lot more human than we think. They're just like us, which that's a pretty good message in and of itself, but they always fall short and always blaspheme in a way, whether unintentional or not, against Christianity, but I think the greater issue, the real issue, is that these these people in Hollywood are purposefully trying to subvert Christianity by misrepresenting history or theology, right? Because guess what? I mean, if you're somebody that already is doubting and you see Kingdom of Heaven, you're like, oh yeah, look at these Christians. They're just as brutal as the Muslims. The Muslims weren't that bad back then. They were just going to the Middle East for no reason. Well, they don't ever bring up that fucking Muhammad and his homies were fucking not suppressing, but oppressing these people, and they were oppressed for a very long fucking time. Yeah, I think it's purposeful. I think they purposefully do that. I mean, just look at like A24 films, right? Ex Machina, right? Ex Machina, when I watched it the first time, I thought it was just a sci-fi movie. I thought it was just a movie about some android who may or may not have real feelings, right? So I was watching YouTube reviews and shit, or videos like talking about the movie, and the movie was supposed to be a rejection of God, right? So the two main actors, I can't remember their names, but I know the one actor. His name is fucking, oh god, he was Poe Dameron in Star Wars. What's his name?
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac is the main character, right? He's the one that created her, right? And the other guy, I can't remember his name, he basically like humanizes her. He makes her feel human, and at the end, this fucking guy tries saving her, and she locks him away, kills her creator, right? And then goes off into reality as if she was a real person. And the whole message of the film was, that, we've transcended a need for God. We don't need any of that. That we have transcended the constraints. We've moved past our chains of religion, and we can form our own future on our own. And if that's the message that you're trying to send, fucking God fucking help us, because a lot of people buying into that shit. I mean, even in The Whale, that fucking crybaby ass nigga, Brian, what was his name? Brandon Fraser, this fucking crybaby ass nigga. Ever since that movie came out, he couldn't go like 5 minutes without crying. I mean, he's lost so much tea in the past like fucking 10 years since the third Mummy movie. I mean, I couldn't even take him serious in Killers of the Flower Moon when he's yelling at Leonardo DiCaprio. He's like, "You stupid boy!" Like, come on, guy.
He is saving you, dumb boy!
Come on, you lost it. You lost it in the last Mummy movie. But in the movie, in The Whale, he left his wife to go pursue a homosexual relationship. And not only just that, there's like this Seventh-day Adventist kid that tries to come and like save him, right? And talk to him about Jesus and all that. And he's like, basically he tells him, "Fuck you, you piece of shit. I don't give a fuck what you got to say." And then his daughter, who's a fucking degenerate, is like, "Oh, I know that you smoked weed and you think your parents need to know that," and some bullshit about him going back to his parents and accepting him for being a fucking degenerate. And then there's like a scene in the movie where they talk about the Bible and how it's such a horrible, evil thing and it hurts my feelings. And then he dies. He gets up, right, and he fucking dies, right, because he goes to go hug his daughter, right? His daughter subverted this poor Christian kid, and he wanted to live a life of homosexuality, and that's basically the whole film, right? So I think that there is a conspiracy to subvert Christianity, and Christians need to start stepping it up, or us as Christians, we need to start telling these Hollywood directors and producers that we want our experts on these fucking films to advise. I decided to add this in post-production, and I was thinking, well, who would they add as So who would they add?
Dumb boy!
We gotta keep all this
Dumb boy!
fucking shit in. Who could they add for, like, you know, the Christian theology in these movies, right? So
Who would be good advisors?
so like good advisors that we could put in these movies would be like Wes Huff, Scott Hahn, Lee Strobel, did I say Wes Huff?
Yeah.
What, you know, him, Voice of Reason, Michael Lofton from the Reason and Theology channel. They would be excellent guys to put in. You know, even there's this other guy. Fuck, what's his name? Disciple Dojo. He speaks the ancient languages, but you know, it doesn't have to be just guys that are known on YouTube. It could be other. I think G.K. Chesterton. I don't even know if he's alive anymore.
He's dead, dude. He's an
He's
old
dead?
J.K. Chesterton.
Damn, I didn't even know he was dead. So, I mean, they could find somebody out there. There's plenty of theologians that speak Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek. They understand the religion. They understand the history of that time, and they could just do stuff like that, you know, and just to make the movies better, more theologically accurate. So yeah.
Let's get some pussy tonight.